So we don't realize the true reality of our existence because we've not really fully come to sufficient level of consciousness to even realize our own suffering condition. So when it's said that the material world is prison house, every step is danger, it's a place of suffering and misery, we just say, well, I don't really see that, I don't really feel that, okay, this is not perfect, but we're not even close to understanding the reality of the condition. We're talking about Arjuna saying that this uncontrolled mind and senses being driven into the sinful activities and being punished by that sinful reactions is like a cyclone. I'm trying to stop it, could not even barely understand it, what to speak of to stop it. We don't feel ourselves in a cyclone. We're barely attempting to even try to stop that which we cannot even really perceive. And because we can't feel it, we think, well, we must be successful at stopping the cyclone that we can't feel and perceive. So evidently that's not our problem. So it means we're so out of touch with the reality that what type of consciousness really are we in? And then people don't want to hear that type of discussion. Well, Prabhupada said we're devotees and we're all pure devotees, and even he said we're demigods, and maybe he's just trying to encourage us, try to become devotee, try to put faith and instruction of the Guru, Sadhu Guru, Shastra, then become real Bhakta, real devotee, real Aryan, real Brahmana, real Vaishnava. We're just assuming everything is already done. We've not even understood what is already there. We don't have a good really grasp or perspective on it. So a little bit out of touch with reality. Big pride, arrogance, conceit, high impression of ourselves. Thinking ourselves very great, very nicely, well situated. Demanding respect, respectability. Feeling offended when people are not worshiping and glorifying and surrendering to us. Why are you laughing? Is this picture starting to become clearer as we're going? Yes. That's a good sign. That's a real good sign. So we're not conscious of the problem, we're not conscious of threefold miseries, we're not conscious of the place as a prison house and a place of suffering. And we're thinking little pinching we're getting, we're trying to make some type of mental, intellectual adjustment, try to find some kind of a solution, trying to make some temporary logistical maneuvers, thinking that will somehow solve it. We're moving here and there, doing this and that, maybe this, maybe that. Endlessly adjusting, attempting to find some peace and happiness in the prison house, in the world which is designed to be miserable. This is process of self-realization. And then do we feel that the greatest enemy is the uncontrolled mind and senses? Are we at all concerned about that? Are we at all trying to control that? like stopping the cyclone? Have we come to the point of admitting our defeat? We're not even in the game. What to speak of admitting the defeat? So we're trying to counter the illusion, the wishful thinking, the sentimentality, the grandeurs that were legends in our own minds, because mommy and daddy called us Gopal from the beginning of life, for those Aryans out there. I'm trying to paint the picture of the reality of our situation, condition, because if we don't really understand it, we're not going to really look for a solution. And I was reading today about Arjuna and how he was so bewildered, so perplexed on the battlefield, playing the role as conditioned soul. And Prabhupada saying he's so elevated personality, he's ready to drop everything and go in the forest and just beg. If you don't have control of your mind and your senses, if you're not completely detached materially, who can just say, I'll go sit in the forest and beg? And then his exhibition of compassion, misplaced compassion, apparently attached to his family members, is also just seen as Vaishnava quality. So such a exalted personality, and still he was coming to the conclusion that whatever I'm thinking up, whatever plans I'm doing, even his excuses for not surrendering were all according to a Vedic paradigm. He's quoting Shastras, if you kill your family, if you do like this, you commit the violence. He's backing all of his excuses up with basically Vedic type of knowledge and quoting different law books according to the Vedic tradition. What excuses are we giving for not wanting to surrender? We just don't want to do it. Simple. I was telling this devotee the other day something like, you know, Krishna's the controller, we're not the controller. You know, we just have to accept, you know, Krishna's, he's arranging everything, controlling everything. And he said, no. No. So we're not even backing anything up, we're just saying no. Don't like it. Don't want to do it. So Prabhupada said Arjuna was skillfully avoiding by quoting Shastra, quoting Vedic tradition and scriptures and law books, and still he was trying to get out of it. And even he was, in the end, was perplexed so badly that he couldn't come up with any other thing, no other excuse, so much confused, don't know what to do, what not to do. Prabhupada says conditioned soul doesn't know what to do, what not to do. So he's taking the position as conditioned soul because Krishna has to come, wants to come and speak Bhagavad Gita to the conditioned souls. So basically he's saying, Arjuna, you come with me, you act like you're a conditioned soul, because I need to speak the Bhagavad Gita. So if you don't play like that, I cannot speak like that. So Arjuna, he just assumed the role as conditioned soul, although he was so highly elevated, pure Vaishnava, eternal associate of the Lord. And then Krishna can come and speak Bhagavad Gita, and Prabhupada said that Krishna is speaking through Arjuna to the rest of mankind. So Krishna coming to establish that Sanatana Dharma, and how do conditioned souls realize the reality of the situation, condition, how and why he's created this world the way that he has, and how it's understood to be prison house, which is filled with different types of misery, in order to punish us. Hare Krishna. I was wondering where you two were tonight. I was going to ask you. I was saying, why you're not sitting closer, and where are they? Then you sat closer, and then they came. How Krishna is doing everything. So, all the time, all the Vaishnavas, Krishna, and all his devotees, they're always coming and explaining what is the reality of our condition, and what should be the experience that we are feeling or perceiving and understanding by that arrangement. So it says the human form of life, if you're not coming to ask certain questions, that why am I being harassed? Why so much different type of suffering, anxiety? Why so much suffering is there? Feel like I'm being punished. I think I'm trying to be some type of good person, still so much heavy punishment is coming. Sometimes it doesn't seem that the punishment seems too much for what we perceive to be smaller, maybe, infractions. But we don't understand about previous lifetime and what we also did in previous lifetimes. So all of that is being explained to help us to understand what is the reality of our situation. And then if it says there's threefold miseries, punishments are there, heavy losses of Maya, prison house of the material world, are we feeling that? Are we perceiving that? Are we worried about that? Are we trying to solve that? Because everyone by nature wants to be peaceful and happy and satisfied. But what if we're already feeling peaceful and happy and satisfied? Like the hogs and the dogs and the camels and the asses. So then how is it? I don't feel that it's danger at every step. I don't feel that it's a place of suffering. I don't feel so many threefold miseries. I don't feel like I'm being punished. I have some enjoyment. And you start to tell someone who's more conscious, more realized, more honest, they start to tell what is really going on. And people say, I feel bad for you, you must have bad karma. You poor baby. We have good karma because we're not perceiving any of that. So I don't even really know what you're talking about. So maybe it's just being made up somehow. Like some kind of like a scare you tactic or something. We should be scared, but we're not scared. It says every single step is danger. We're living with the worst enemy, an uncontrolled mind and senses, and we don't feel that we're in danger. We're not worried about the worst enemy, the all-devouring sinful enemy of man, who's inflicting these type of punishment on us. We don't even feel it. So most people, if we can't feel that, then we're not asking any questions. Why am I suffering? Why so much perplexity, confusion? If you get some sense gratification, everything's fine, right? As soon as we start getting reactions, and the sin and the karma pala and the Himalayan mountains, which is much more than our pious activities, that's for sure. So you get a little bit of glimpse of happiness, and then the rest of it is basically miserable. Prabhupada said, like the man who's drowning in the ocean, and then you lift his head out of the water and he gets some fresh air and says, oh, happiness. So we're getting little glimpses of periodic type of, what is it, temporary release of a suffering condition, and we're calling that happiness. So what a low-grade level of happiness is basically, I'm not suffering as much as I usually do. So that's happiness in comparison, right? And then we're satisfied with that. So that means there's such a low consciousness, then we'll not try to understand the reality of our condition, we'll not try to solve it, we'll not try to get out of it. Those who can perceive it, feel it, taste it, all of their mind, intelligence and senses, just all temporary miserable bliss, all different type of anxiety and suffering and disturbance. The people are so low class, low consciousness, miserly, crooked, prisoners. When you go in the prison house, what do you expect in the prison house? They may dress nice, but still prisoner, right? Still a criminal, still not nice person. So someone who devotee wants to be devotee, he'll be disgusted by this type of criminal or demoniac qualities within themselves. How you can be satisfied? If you want to be devotee, how will you be satisfied? Understanding and recognizing different types of demoniac qualities and such antisocial, selfish, violent behavior. So Prabhupada was saying, I'm trying to create a place for perfect gentleman, perfect lady, create a real Brahminical class of people, gentlemanly class, sattva gun, and from that step then you can go to Shuddha Sattva, Vaishnava, transcendental platform. So how many real Brahmanas are there? How much sattva gun is here, especially in Kali Yuga? So mostly we're dealing with Shudra or less, all demoniac qualities which nobody can perceive, and all different types of, demoniac, criminal mentality, behavior. Sound familiar? Anyone in France like that? Everybody. That's why he ran away from Paris. But when I went to France, I saw, even the people from the Congo, they're like black. Like black. There's different shades. I'm talking black, Shudra black. And they're talking French. And they were so puffed up, you know. Just because you're speaking French here, they taught you French and now you're puffed up, you know. Anyway, that's another subject. And just like some people in the airport, like the most menial people, right? I'm not even talking like, you know, someone just the most basic person. But those speaking French, so everybody from every place has some kind of an excuse to be puffed up, right? It's not just the Americans. Everybody has some kind of demoniac qualities. So if we want to be devotee, we should, when we see it in other people, we're like, ooh, that's not nice. Right? That's not attractive. Right? But we should think, well, how about when we're doing that? How about when we're acting like that? Is that now attractive? So do we want to see ourselves like that? Do we want to portray ourselves like that? Are we satisfied with that? Well, I used to be a worse demon. Hare Krishna. I was wondering where you were too. It's amazing. Is this making any sense at all? I'm just having a conversation amongst friends. How's that sound? Sometimes that's also required, right? My Sanskrit's not so great, you know. I was trying to tell one devotee something. He's like, what's the Sanskrit on that? And I said, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I said, honestly, I'm having trouble with the English language right now. So we need a lot of mercy. We need a lot of mercy. So most of us, we came here because we were suffering, right? Heavy lashes, no peace, no happiness, no satisfaction. Nothing we're seeing, doing materially is actually really working. Then we're looking for some kind of a spiritual release or solution. Went to the church, went to the temple, went to the mountaintop, went to the ocean, went to the forest. Soul cried out to God, are you there? Can you hear me? You're the only hope I have. Nothing else has worked. I don't see anything else that can work. They said, your only solution. And then Krishna somehow or other got us to one book, one devotee, right? Then read Bhagavad Gita as it is. Then Krishna, God directly talking to you. I was actually thinking that somehow I got my hands on one Bhagavad Gita. It was called the Song of the Blessed Lord. And I was starting to read that book. And we're talking about the Brahman and yogis and I don't know what is all of this thing, you know. And all I know is then when I'm carrying that book around, like everybody's like freaking out around me, you know. And I remember like walking around with this book, right, and it was like had some kind of like power to it. This is how rudimentary our start was in the spiritual life. That somehow or other this book has some kind of supernatural, superhuman power, Shakti. And I held Bibles, and I did all of these other type of books, but there was something about that book and everybody's reaction to it. Then I was just remembering distributing books that, you're putting these books in that person's house, even they're not reading it. But if the books is directly Krishna manifesting there, that means Krishna is sitting in their house. So now which circumstances in their life causes them to cry out to God, cry out to Krishna, and all of a sudden they go to the bookshelf and somehow by some coincidence they pull out one book, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Beyond Birth and Death, Easy Journey to Other Planets, Science of Self-Realization, all of Prabhupada's books, right? And right at that moment you're reading that and it's just exactly the absolute truth. That's why Prabhupada said, Krishna, he's quite capable of just convincing you on his own. He doesn't need even your preaching, he doesn't even need your interpretation or your opinion or your speculation. Just his words alone are more than enough for him to directly purify you and wake up your soul and give you intelligence and faith exactly in that moment. So Krishna ultimately, as Adi Guru, Chetu Guru, Shri Guru, he's the one who made us devotee. And then he may use his other devotees, bhaktas, Vaishnava devotees, to give us some hint, some idea. But anyway, every soul has to cry. People say, well, Prabhupada didn't say like that. And Prabhupada does say like that. You should be like a baby crying for the mother. When baby crying for the mother immediately runs to that place. Usually. Let's say generally. It is Kali Yuga after all. So this whole material world, all the suffering, all the anxiety, all the confusion, the bewilderment, now with technology, artificial intelligence, manipulation of your senses, your mind, it's become now absolutely impossible to know what is true, what's not true, what's real, what's not real. Everything is completely upside down, and everything that we're promised, we're disappointed. So it's all disappointment, all broken-heartedness, whether with your family, with your friends, with your husband, your wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, children, even grandparents. Yeah. Grandpa. Don't forget about old crooked grandpa with the crooked toe. You're not supposed to think like that, right? You know, from Vedic culture especially, right? It's like, you can't think like that. Right? No, Vedic culture is you can think like that, but you can't act that out. So you can know they're a completely horrible person, more or less, but you have to socially show them all respect, right? So you still have to behave according to social etiquette, even if they're the biggest demon on the planet. Because that's mom and dad and grandpa and grandma and auntie. Don't forget about crooked auntie. Doesn't everyone have a crooked auntie? Come on, be honest. How many times your mother's saying, don't listen to my sister, whatever you do? You're laughing because it's really true. So this whole place, everything here, Prabhupada said, is made to be so complex. I'll give you exactly word. Prabhupada says in this explanation of the complexity and the bewildering nature of the material world and how everyone is suffering as a result of that. Prabhupada speaking Bhagavad Gita in second chapter 2:1 through 10, November 25, 1968, Los Angeles. Arjuna is lamenting. He's telling all of the bewilderment, complexity, weakness, everything that's overtaken him due to this family attachment. Sanjay was telling that seeing Arjuna, he was full of compassion and he felt very sorrowful. His eyes were brimming with tears. Then Krishna spoke to him as follows. Supreme Lord Krishna said, "My dear Arjuna, how have all of these impurities, how have they come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the progressive values and the purpose of the human life. They do not lead to the higher planets, but to infamy." And Prabhupada says, now Arjuna, he was being sympathetic with his brothers and with his relatives, and he was practically crying. And he had tears in his eyes. He was lamenting about his relatives, his bodily relations, out of compassion, sympathy for them and their condition. He was practically crying with tears in his eyes, and Krishna said to him, "This is not Aryan." That is not Aryan. It is not befitting. This type of behavior is not befitting for an Aryan. He was so compassionate and so sympathetic, but still, this was not at all approved by Krishna. We think, oh, compassion and sympathy and all of this thing like it's some kind of high quality, right? It shows some type of, right? But from transcendental Aryan Vedic point of view, this is not at all approved by Krishna. All the compassion and sympathy, tears in the eye, worrying about the family members, still not approved by Krishna. Prabhupada said, in the presence of the Supreme Lord, Arjuna's lamentation for his family members is certainly unbecoming. We're thinking it's a great thing. Krishna is saying this is unbecoming of such a person that you should be as devotee, as Aryan. Therefore, Krishna expressed his surprise with the word kutas, which means where from? Where is this coming from? All of the lamentation and so-called compassion and all this sympathy. He sees it as a weakness of heart. Where is this coming from? Such unmanly sentiments were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans. You see, Kali Yuga, the men are like ladies. And the ladies are acting like men. In many cases. So it's unmanly. It's not a man. Unmanly sentimentality. This so-called, this sentimentality, this is really, with all due respect, it's a womanly nature. They're very sentimental. That's why they always need to be protected. Because that sentimentality, the softness, can be exploited. But not for a man. Such unmanly sentiments were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans. Maharaj, is this all right? Good? The word, Prabhupada says, the word Aryan is applicable to persons who know the value of life and have a civilization which is based on the spiritual realization platform. That's Aryan. They know the value and the purpose of the human form of life, and they are in a civilization, a state of consciousness based on this type of spiritual realization. That's Aryan. That's a Tattva Vichar Aryan. Not Hitler Aryan. Can I tell you like a little aside while we're discussing this? You don't mind? So, this, what's this person in Russia? Medvedev? No, Lavrov. Right? He's in charge of the State Department, right? Foreign Minister? Right? So he said, the denazification of Germany is not completed yet. Ooh, denazification of Germany is not completed yet. Anyway, back to our subject matter. This is great. We can talk about whatever we want, right? Adam, he's a Nazi. He was a Nazi. We had the denazification program on him. Still work in progress. He has tattoos, Aryan race. Backwards swastika. Backwards. Vlad, another Nazi back there. Another Nazi. Well, I saw one Nazi, he was feeding someone some bread. Great. Persons who are led by the material conception of life do not know the aim of life is the realization of the absolute truth, tattva vichar. Those who are in bodily concept of life, attached to bodily relations, engaged in materialistic and bodily selfishness, they don't know that the real aim and purpose of the human form of life is to understand, what is it? Brahma? Tattva, what is it, Tattva?
Atato Brahma Jigasa.
The Nazis quoting Shastra. This is a miracle. It's a miracle. Now it's time to inquire, not about Hitler. But Vishnu, Bhagavan, nature of the absolute truth. So Srila Prabhupada continues, at the present moment they claim we belong to the Aryan family. But they have not the qualification of an Aryan. The Aryan qualification is being described here. Simply Arjuna, he was just a little flickering. He was a little flickering and he's showing a little bit of weakness. And he was at once condemned by Krishna as non-Aryan. He didn't take one, speck of this emotion and sentiment and lamentation and sympathy. Prabhupada was saying he just a little bit showed that quality, and immediately Krishna said, that's not Aryan. You are just showing your symptom. You are showing your symptom of a non-Aryan. By showing all of this sympathy and so-called compassion and all of this lamentation and crying for your family members. This is a symptom of weakness. Even Prabhupada said a little flickering, little weakness immediately. This is not Aryan. That is a symptom of a non-Aryan. You see? And this is by Krishna. But the Aryan word, that is not an ordinary word. Oh, we are Aryans. Even Hitler's saying we're Aryans. So anytime you want to just make your nationality and your country the best, just call them Aryans. So it's not ordinary. Tattva vichar means it's transcendental. Prabhupada says to become Aryan, please excuse me, I'm from another country and I'm telling you about what is a real Aryan. You have to just think this is Prabhupada speaking, right? When they were talking about the Hindus in America, they were talking Prabhupada about the Hindus. Prabhupada said, I'm a Hindu. Right? They're like criticizing the Hindus, and Prabhupada said, look, I'm a Hindu. I'm from that place. Right? So Prabhupada's saying, quoting Krishna, is saying that this is not the symptom of real Aryan. This is not an ordinary word. Aryan means a perfect human being, as far as possible. That means Pakka Brahmana, leading towards Vaishnava. Is that right? That means the demigods are happy with us. Or it's some kind of weapon from the government. Some weapon trying to stop this discussion about the Aryans. It's the Nazis. They're using special weapons. No. Prabhupada says such persons are captivated by the external features of the material world and Maya. They don't know what is real liberation. They have no knowledge of how to become liberated from the bondage of the materialistic world. That means they're non-Aryans. Arjuna was trying to deviate from his prescribed duties. He was declining to fight, although he was a Kshatriya, or he was a warrior. This act of cowardice is described as befitting non-Aryans. So if we're cowards, like lady, not manly in qualities, mentality, this is non-Aryan. Such deviation from one's duty and responsibility does not help one in the progress of their spiritual life, nor does it even give one the opportunity of becoming famous even in this world. Lord Krishna did not approve of this so-called sympathy and compassion of Arjuna for his family members. But this whole culture, so-called culture, modern education, they're saying they're depowering the man. They're weakening the power of the patriarchy because they want the woman power, woman liberation movement. And you go to many temples, right, in ISKCON, the ladies are leading the kirtan, the ladies are the temple president, even in some countries, big countries, in Europe, you got these little ladies in charge of the country. Then you find out like their father and grandfather were all Nazis. How does it always come back to this? It's true, what I'm telling you. I'm not making it up. Are we ready? Yeah. All right, we're just starting. Do you like this conversation? Yes. Okay. So Krishna and Krishna's devotee, really, they don't like all of this unmanly, non-Aryan weakness. That's why I always joke with our devotees, right? These are the people we're going to start a revolution with. We can't even open the door, you know? Everybody, get their broomsticks. We're going to war. Prabhupada said, so-called compassion, which we're holding in such high esteem, Arjuna was thinking that by showing this type of sympathy and compassion, that he'll be somehow or other glorified by Krishna. That Krishna will see it as some very valuable thing. But Krishna, rather, he condemned it. But in our society, right, all the men, what's the problem with toxic masculinity? Right? The women feminists, they came up with toxic masculinity. So the men should be more compassionate and more emotional and more sympathetic and weak, like a lady. No offense. Don't get mad at me. But generally speaking, women are more emotional. No, it's true. I grew up with 3 sisters. I know exactly what it is. It's just the nature, right? So they've set up a system that if the totalitarian regime wants to control you, they need to break down the family. And to break down the family, you have to weaken the man in the family. And then if you weaken the man in the family, or you get rid of him, or you send him to die in the war, or you put him in the gulag, then all the ladies are there alone, having to raise their family, so they have to be tough, right? And then they also have to be dependent on the government. So the government wants to be their husband. And they want to control and take care of the women if they'll just agree with everything they want to try to do. And then the more babies you have, don't worry, your husband is so weak he cannot support it anyway. The government will pay for everything. You just be our soldier. You raise your children to be obedient to the state. You see? This is not going on by mistake. So the whole educational system was developed long time before, how to weaken the family unit. And the easiest way to weaken the family unit is to get rid of a strong, intelligent, independent, capable male. And now if they are not there for various reasons, now the lady has to struggle and then is dependent on the government for protection and money and health support and care and schooling and housing. And they freely give, so the government authorities become the husband. Then the women getting money and all support from the government, why they need the man? And if the man is weak and useless and powerless and has no strength, no manly quality, it's embarrassing. So which lady wants to walk around with that kind of man also? So they don't need this type of man, is there? And then they take away the manufacturing, they take away the jobs. Now the man has no job, he has no money. All of that is shipped into some other place. Then they become alcoholic, drug addict, this, that, right? Completely degrades the whole family unit. So now, wife, daughters, family, they have no protection. It's supposed to be the God, that the husband, father, is working under and working in Guru Krishna Samsa, so they have divine connection and protection from God and Guru, and working in Daivi Varnashram system. Then they will be empowered and qualified how to perform duties, responsibility to take care of the family within that system. If that disconnection is there with the father, with the husband, There's no spiritual connection. Now you materially, purposefully weaken them, demand them. It's called demasculating them. So the men become weaker and weaker and weaker, and the women say, oh, he's such a great man. He's so sympathetic and so compassionate. He's such an emotional person. He's practically like one of us. And then if somebody is strong, can take charge, take control, protect the family, maintain the family, good decision maker, powerful, manly person, they just say this is toxic masculinity. So you just say that type of man is toxic, is poisonous to the independence of the women liberation movement. You see how all this is connected? People say, oh, why you study and learn all of this other thing? This why. This is why. It's all connected. Some tea or something? My brother, are we all right? You're still here. And then what do they do after that? They take away all of your weapons. So now the man is weakened. If he's strong, he's eliminated or seen as toxic. Then you take away any type of weapons where they can protect themselves and protect their family. Now the government says, don't worry, we'll protect your family. So once again, you don't need the weapons, you don't need the man. Now no strong men, no weapons. All ladies, families dependent on the state. Educational system brainwashing the children to continue the same cycle. Now there's no threat to the totalitarian regime because the men are weak, disorganized, too much attached to their families, also dependent on the government, and no weapons to protect themselves or their family. Now, you just take complete control of the media. You control all mainstream media, all newspaper, all magazine, even now social media. Now they're making laws that if you say anything against this type of programming, you will be seen as domestic criminal. And you'll be thrown in the jail. Again, weakening the strength of independent thinkers and persons who can organize, and people who can speak the truth against the untruth. They are seen as troublemakers. Then in a communist regime, then some black car pulls up to your house, and Uncle Joe, Uncle Pavel, I don't know Chinese so well. I might make a mistake. They just put you in the car and then where's Daddy going? Where's Uncle going? Oh, he has some appointment out in Siberia. He has some work. He's going on some work party. Is he going to come back? I don't know. We don't know. Am I speaking the truth? It's shockingly sad truth. But the most amazing thing is it takes into consideration all of human psychology, which is deviated from Vedic system. So once you deviate from Daivi Varnashram system, from Vedic system, then automatically it's just same, more or less, psychology and mentality of the weakness and the weakening of these civilizations and how they do it and then how they protect it and perpetuate it, and the dynamic is exactly the same. And the people who figured that out in Britain and who figured that out in America, and all of Hitler's people took all of that manipulation of propaganda and how to control the media and the newspaper and how you control the narrative and you control the hearts and the minds of the people. How do you brainwash them? And even this guy in Germany, what was his name? Klaus Schwab. Oh my God. I'm talking like the 1930s. Goebbels, yes. One of your Shiksha gurus. He admitted, he wrote, I got all this from America, and the president wrote, what was his name? Teddy Roosevelt and his British guys, always Britain, man, always England. Divide and conquer, right? So it's the same playbook, it's the same dynamic, and now only you're just adding technology and speeding up the process of controlling the narrative by algorithms and supercomputers and indoctrination through so-called modern educational system. So that's why it's speeding up. And then you see these companies, BlackRock and Blackstone, right? They're building supercomputer data centers which are like 10 miles long. So it's literally, when there's this war, all of those centers have to be blown up. So this is actually more complex than I was originally thinking. That means the whole infrastructure and all of the technology has to also be completely destroyed. So this is what we're up against, and we're not even really aware of what's going on. That's the most amazing thing. In English, it's some kind of psychological manipulation, and they're using 5G and 10G, and they're putting all of these particles, nanoparticles, within all of our food and medicine and vaccines, and all of those things will be manipulated by these different frequencies. How are we on this particular topic? Sometimes I get confused myself. I'm just going with the flow. I'm just, to be honest with you, I call it like a great awakening. It's a type of great awakening to what is the reality of our world and how we got here. And I feel like any type of awakening or realization or experience or education any of us have that is valuable, that should be shared. And Krishna told to Arjuna, because you're my devotee, and you have bhakti, you have love for me, you're not envious of me, I'll tell you everything of material world and spiritual world. So we're just breaking down, this is like analytical study of the complexity of the prison house. Physically and mentally and subtly, intellectually, governmentally. It's just a more complex breakdown of how exactly this system is working and how and why it was set up and how it's affecting all of us and why we find ourselves in the position that we're in as personally and collectively as a society, community, society, country, and world. So I'm just sharing that information with you and trying to show you how it's all connected. Otherwise you'll say, oh, this is just material information. But actually we should understand it as how Maya is manipulating all of these separated material energies, including mind, intelligence, false ego, and how sophisticated that manipulation and control is on every single level and system within our existence, modern day existence. Does anyone have any points or questions so far? Yeah?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Very well.
So I had actually been thinking for a long time that I want to switch my career. Like I want to I have been thinking of doing research in pure mathematics. Like I want to do masters and PhD. So I was thinking like how wise a path would
Become
this be?
Krishna conscious, first of all. Then you'll understand mathematics. Modern education means learn mathematics, right? And then maybe you learn about God, about Krishna. But if you're studying science, mathematics, hard or soft sciences, they become very proud and arrogant by their knowledge, by the cultivation of the material knowledge. And because most people don't understand it, it's very easy to get carried away and think that we are superior and that we're great. So it promotes this arrogance, conceitedness, pride, which is all demoniac quality. So it's better to be Krishna conscious, be a devotee, and then if Krishna wants you to be a scientist, then you'll understand everything in relationship to Krishna. Then there's no problem. So that's up to Krishna, how he wants to engage you in what particular service. You may have an inclination or an interest. That may be personal or selfish. It may not necessarily be what Krishna wants for you. So the whole point is how to become Krishna conscious and understand what does Krishna want us to do. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that if you understand from me what is your duty, what is your service, and that I am the enjoyer, this Yajna Purusha, of that sacrifice or service, if you do that seva for my pleasure, that will purify you and liberate you and deliver you. Any other seva, any other service, any other activity that you do besides that, no matter how pious you may think it is, will be the cause of your bondage, will keep you perpetually in this karma bandhana. So the art of work means how do we work? The real essence of karma yoga is actually bhakti. It's how to perform action or work for the pleasure of Krishna in Sanatana Dharma and bhakti. And that instruction, those instructions will come from Krishna through the Guru. If you do that service, you make that service your life and your soul. That service connected to the mercy of Guru and Krishna will purify you and liberate you and deliver you. Any other activity that you do separate from that, separate from that connection of the mercy of Guru and Krishna, will be materialistic, and it will just keep you bound in this cycle and repetition of karma bandhana, or action and reaction, sinful reaction. So it's not about what we think we want to do, it's what does Krishna want us to do. That is devotional service. That is pure devotional service. And if we say we're prepared, Krishna, I just want to serve you, I don't care what it is, doesn't matter what it is, I just need to know, just like Arjuna said, please tell me decisively and specifically, how can I serve you? Then if you make that instruction from Krishna through the Guru your life and soul, and we consciously, purposefully execute that service for their pleasure to receive their mercy and blessing, then automatically we'll get purified and simplified and Krishnaized, and then we'll become liberated and ultimately delivered. That's why Krishna says, better you do your service even if you do it imperfectly than to try to do someone else's service even if you do their service perfectly. So what is exactly does Krishna want us to do? If we're not asking that question, we're not receiving that answer, we're lost in speculation. We're not involved in the actual solution. We don't realize the problem, we're not involved in the solution, means we don't know what to do, what not to do. Then we're just groping in the darkness. I remember when Gurudev said the first time, you're just groping in the darkness. I was like, oh, that's actually really true. Like I have no idea what I'm supposed to really do. And then I understood, I don't really have any real shelter and protection. Because if we get the instruction from Krishna through Guru, make it our life and our soul, then that's our connection, that's our shelter and protection from Guru and Krishna through that seva. As soon as you don't have that or you disconnect from that, now there's no shelter and protection spiritually. Now we're in a very dangerous position, because then Maya will just come and contaminate, bewilder, disturb the intelligence, mind and senses. That's why it says this is not child's play. This is not for kids. This is not for those who are weak in the heart, sentimentalists, emotionalists. So, who cares really what are you thinking? Right? If I'm thinking I want to be a mathematician and Krishna says, but I want you to be a soldier, Then who cares about the mathematician? Unless you're figuring out how far to shoot the missile. Your mathematical mind may come in handy during that time. Yeah?
Actually, like I had this experience, like I took, even right now, like I wasted 9 months in a job which I didn't like it. Like I thought that this would be my field and I will do research in this, but 9 months later I figured out that this was not meant for me. So I literally, that's the reason
He says he wasted 9 months in a job and he doesn't even like it. It's not his deal.
You must be, everything that you're involved in is everything you don't want to be involved in.
like that job was the reason I ran from Pune and came here.
It's like, he going out, right, and his shoes don't fit, his pants are too long, his jacket is too not warm enough, his hat is too big, his car has a flat. It's like the whole thing is like a disaster, Do you feel like your life is like a bit of a disaster?
I mean, like every time I try.
Every time I start thinking about it, yeah.
Like when I reflect back.
Huh?
When I reflect back on things, they do seem.
When you reflect upon that?
On things, they do look like a
When
disaster.
I reflect back, then it does seem like a bit of a disaster.
We're reflecting now. We're not even worrying about back. We're in the present tense. Sounds like a bit of a disaster, doesn't it? Like, is anything actually, like, working properly? No?
No. I don't know, like that.
No, he's being honest. He's being honest. He's being really honest. So we need a better plan. Would you admit that you need a better plan? You need a better game plan? Because right now you're just acting as your own guru, right? I'm thinking, I'm feeling, I'm planning, I'm desiring, I'm doing, I did. That's all you. And the end result of doing you is a disaster, right? How can you tell someone that, like, you're the guru and it's a disaster and everyone's like, it's like smiling, It's a little pinching, I remember my guru that was reminding me of the reality of my condition. It was like a little bit like unpalatable. Wasn't nice. Sometimes some devotee came to my class. I don't like Maharaj's class because he's not building everybody's self-esteem. Right, if we don't get rid of our demoniac qualities, what is building somebody's self-esteem? You should be a more proud demon? I mean, I don't know. You should think you're greater than you are? Or is it... And then all the Vaishnavas are saying, I don't have anything. I haven't achieved anything. Materially or spiritually. No karma, no jnana, no yoga, no bhakti, nothing. That's the reality of the situation. But you want me to make you feel like you're in a Satya Yuga body in existence? while you're in Kali Yuga? You can just put on the metaverse glasses and just see yourself 18 feet tall, carrying a sword, going to do your dharma. Sometimes you see these guys walking around New York, right? And they're like, they got these swords and they're just crossing the street, you know? This is getting strange. Don't you think? What world are you living in? What alternative, you know, what do they call it?
Alternative reality.
Yeah, or universe. What alternative universe are you living in? Which yuga are you living in? So we need to understand, where is our soul right now? And what is the reality or condition of our particular situation? Everyone's got a problem. That's why I started off this talking about everyone's got a problem, right? Finally, I just remembered what we're supposed to be talking about. Everyone's got a problem. Got a health problem, got a mental problem, I got a money problem, I got a family problem, I have an institutional problem, I have a government problem, I have a visa problem, I have an antisocial problem. Who doesn't have a problem? My mother and father, they're obsessed with my getting married. That's a problem. Wherever you're moving, all you can feel is like 4 eyes, like burning a hole through the back of your head, you know? Your mother and your father just staring you down. When are you gonna get married? Get married. This is like the whole purpose of life. Isn't it? What does your mother say about all this?
She says that.
Oh, your mother's a devotee.
Yeah, you pray to Krishna and whatever Krishna gives you, yeah.
Thank God your mother's a devotee. What if your mother was a demon? I remember I met one devotee, right, his mother, and I was calling her Putana. So devotees are like bringing the mother, right? They're the one to meet the Maharaj, you know? And I'm saying, you're like a Putana, you know? And like, who meets your mother and just the first thing they say is, you're like Putana, you know? I said, because Krishna wants them to become devotee, and you're trying to stop them from becoming a devotee, then you're acting like Putana. And of course we were doing it with like sense of humor. And then in the end, gradually she got purified, and she became really happy. And then when I went to talk to her to make sure she was all right, she says, I am Putana. I am Putana. I said, now you're a devotee. So you see how strict is Krishna. The so-called compassion and what is the other word? Sympathy, crying, lamenting. He's thinking Krishna will glorify him for that. But Krishna, Prabhupada says, Krishna condemned it and said just exactly the opposite. In other words, Krishna is very strict also. That is the qualification of Krishna and his associates. So when we're preaching against sentimentalism and so-called compassion and all these feelings and emotions, right? Because it's Maya. It's anartha. It's unwanted. It's condemned. It's not a good thing. Material, mundane compassion and sympathy, right? That is the qualification of Krishna and his associates. Then Prabhupada quotes this Vajrad api katora and Kusumat api kamala. Softer than the flower and harder than the thunderbolt. So the Guru, Krishna, can be harder than the thunderbolt and softer than the rose or flower. Two sides. When Krishna is strict, then he is harder than the thunderbolt. And when he's soft, he's softer than the flower. Two examples are given there. So Krishna is not lenient to his friend or his devotee. You're not lenient, you're not liberal. You're not allowing it. Because that leniency, that so-called liberal nature, will not help them. Because it's anartha. That will not help them. Sometimes he appears to be very hard, very strict for the devotees. Like too heavy. But he's not hard. Just like the father, sometimes he becomes very strict. That is good. You either go or come, isn't it? I told him. Then he would have stopped it from the beginning, right? So he gave you a chance. He gave you instructions how to do it in such a way that you'll be protected, and you overstepped it. You took advantage of it. That's a comfort. So that strictness of the father, of Guru, this is a very good thing.
Where's the mic? Where's the mic? Where's the mic? It's coming.
You see, I had everything ready for you guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So this strictness of Guru, of Krishna, Krishna devotee, this is very good, and this will be proved how Krishna's strictness and how his hardness will prove his salvation. How Krishna's hardness will prove his salvation. At the end, Arjuna, he will admit that by your mercy, my illusion is now over. So by that strictness, by that special mercy, then he could understand that he had got the mercy by accepting that and following that. So Prabhupada says this sort of Hare Krishna. Did you adjust your sound properly? Is that the right sound? Hare Krishna. Does it sound all right to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So by this sort of stricture or heaviness from God or his devotee, Guru, this is sometimes is misunderstood. There's too much trouble or something like that. Needs more bass. Hare Krishna. So it says the Guru is heavy, very strict, putting us under a discipline. We don't like that. Everybody who is intelligent and wise enough, they can understand that the discipline, being disciplined, is actually a very good quality and behavior. But we don't like being disciplined. We don't like being told no. We don't like being controlled by Guru and Krishna, by anybody. Of course, it's either Krishna or Maya. They're controlling anyways. So that heaviness or stricture, or being strict, uncompromising, sometimes it is greatly misunderstood, because we are always accustomed to accept what is immediately very pleasing. So if you hear something very flattering and very pleasing, then immediately we like that, we accept that. But sometimes we will find that we are not getting which is immediately very pleasing. Sometimes it's unpalatable. Gurudev used this word pinching. I know my words are pinching you. And I saw Prabhupada is using the same words about the pinching, that somehow you're falsigo, you're feeling little pinched, little disturbed by those type of criticism, corrective criticism. Sometimes we'll find that we are not getting which is immediately very pleasing, but we should not be disappointed. In other words, don't grumble and complain about it. You just stick to Krishna. That is Arjuna's position. So just stick to it, tolerate it. Don't grumble and complain. Go through that process of purification so that all of these unwanted things, all these unwanted qualities, all of this sinful reaction will get burned off, be purified as tapodivyan. That's required. So we talked about how sometimes it's like sitting in frying pan when you hear the truth, the heavy truth, nothing but the truth. Sometimes it's like surgery, open heart surgery, chopping, cutting, different type of approach how to purify the false ego platform. It's not going to just come by snap of the finger or putting the Hari-katha wand on your head. It's going to come from the burning of unpalatable words and the bitter medicine of the heavy words of Guru Sadhu Shastra. And as we're going through that purification process, hearing unpalatable truth and feeling that type of burning of this sinful reactions and the false ego platform, we have to remain steady in our mind and in our consciousness, understanding what's happening. If you understand that this is exactly where you're supposed to be, this is exactly what is the process, this is exactly what you should be experiencing, and if you can understand it properly and go through it and pray for the power of tolerance by the mercy of Guru Krishna, this is the benefit that you will achieve if we don't grumble and complain about it. If we don't understand what it is, we'll grumble and complain about it. If we understand what it is and understand that this is for our future best interest, then we'll pray for the power of tolerance to go through that purification process. so-called guru who's just flattering you and not confronting you and just not telling you anything, not trying to discipline you or control you or chastise you or take a risk at speaking towards your false ego, they're not your friend, they're your enemy. Because they'll just keep you in that same diseased condition. Bona fide guru takes a risk of approaching people in their false ego state and trying to give them the information and knowledge by which they may understand that yes, this false ego platform and all of this unwanted anarthas and misunderstanding and all of this sinful reaction, this has to be purified and cleaned up. Then we'll be cooperating with that process of purification. Prabhupada says the process of Krishna consciousness in the beginning especially is a process of purification. So we want to go through that process, and it may seem strict, it may seem heavy, it may be unpalatable, but we should understand that this is Krishna's mood, and this is Krishna's devotees' mood. We should not misunderstand it. If we misunderstand it, we won't like it, then we'll grumble and complain. If we grumble and complain, it means you're not appreciating, you're not grateful, you're not understanding this is for our own benefit. We'll not look forward to go through that process in order to achieve the spiritual goal and the benefits which will come by going through that process. Krishna is preaching to Arjuna. He said, "Oh son of Pritha, don't yield to this degrading impotence. Don't allow yourself by your weakness to become so degraded. Give up such a petty, small-minded weakness of your heart and your mind and arise, O chastiser of the enemy." So all of the sentimentality, so-called compassion and sympathy and crying and lamenting, this is all weakness of the heart. This is all anartha. All of that has to ultimately be purified and eliminated. Prabhupada says here that this degrading impotence, this weakness which is degrading you. And Prabhupada says that Krishna, he doesn't want to see that his devotee is such a coward, is so afraid and so powerless. He doesn't want to see his devotee as a coward and so impotent. So this so-called qualification, impotency, not potent, not powerful, not strong, and niggard. This is a dangerous word. This can be, they may try to wipe that word right out of there, right? Impotency and niggard. That is not the qualification for a devotee. So he must be very expert, strong, fit. That's what Krishna wants to see. Not this degrading impotency, this weakness of heart, pettiness, so-called compassion, sympathy, weakness. All of this is Maya. And Krishna says, this does not become you as my devotee. This is not who you're supposed to be. It doesn't look good on you as a devotee. Give up such weakness of heart, such petty weakness of heart, and arise. Become strong, O chastiser of the enemy. Prabhupada said that Krishna he's addressing chastiser of the enemy, where there is no excuse. Where there is no excuse, then you must be a chastiser. So when these demons, there is no excuse for their demoniac behavior, then they must be killed. Where there is no excuse, there's no excuse for their behavior, then you must stand up and be a chastiser. Not that because I become Krishna conscious, then I'll be very humble. You must be humble, but in the need, if there is a need, then you shall be a thunderbolt. That is what Krishna is instructing. So ordinarily, you must be humble. But when there is a need, when people are behaving in such a way that there is no excuse, then they must be put down. Therefore, Arjuna is a military man, so he's telling you should stand up and you should fight and you should eliminate this enemy, chastiser of the enemy. Not that, oh, that's not devotee's mood, put them down, chastise them, kill them, right? We should just be humble. Huh? Right? He's getting nervous. Will they have halava on the front line? Will they have pasta on the front lines? So, this is quite amazing, isn't it? Yes. I was looking for some other thing and then I started reading this. I said, wow, this is so amazing how Prabhupada is describing all of this thing. In the purport, Prabhupada said, Arjuna, he became perplexed in this connection, not knowing whether he should execute the fighting with the risk of committing unnecessarily some violence, although it is the duty of Kshatriyas, or whether he should not and prefer instead to live by begging. Because if he did not conquer the enemy, begging would be the only means left for his living. And there was no certainty of victory at that time because either side might emerge victorious. So Prabhupada said these are his causes of perplexities and how he was thinking, and that has been explained here. So he's expressing all of his perplexities and confusion and bewilderment as to what to do and what not to do, and he's taking the position as ordinary conditioned soul. And then he admitted before Krishna that I'm completely confused about my duty and I have lost all of my composure. I'm not. And Prabhupada says that by nature